What is the video game only you seem to know about? Glitch. The only thing it remembered for now is that Slack originated as an internal communication tool used within Stuart Butterfield's company, Tiny Speck, during their work on the development of Glitch. The game itself was unique and beautiful. It was a casual, 2D browser-based game featuring a strong multiplayer component. It deliberately steered away from combat mechanics, instead focusing on collaborative crafting and gathering activities. Video game. Org Wiki Glitch video game. Seventh guest. Okay. A lot of people have heard of it. But for a while, if you own a CD-ROM, you had either two games, Mist or Seventh Guest. It was hugely popular, and then went practically completely forgotten. It sold as much on the PC as, say, the original Doom. Thing that Bill Gates called the new standard in interactive entertainment, or being regarded as of the two killer apps for a major PC peripheral CD-ROM would be have a bunch of IP connected to it. It had one sequel in the 90s, and a just-released VR game, but that's it. I am alive... I found it far down in the Xbox 360 shop, and I've never heard anyone else talk about it despite the fact that it was made by Ubisoft. Great third-person post-apocalyptic survival game about a man searching the ruins of a city in search of his daughter. Gameplay included parkour, stealth, gunfights, resource management, etc. Also had some unique gameplay mechanics. You could take enemies by surprise and hold them up, even if you were out of ammo. But if they heard your gun click, they'd call your bluff and attack you. The Getaway, Black Monday on the PlayStation 2. They were an awesome combination of British gangster movies think Lock, Stock and To Smoking Barrels Snatch Gentleman and open-world gameplay like GTA. Characters' mission plots were good and mostly European vehicles, and driving on the left seemed more normal to me than GTA of the same era. They had a demo of the game on PS3 that looked fantastic and for me excited for the new console, and then they cancelled the game before release. Powerball on Sega Genesis. It was like a futuristic rugby or soccer where they players wore armor and shot the ball out of a cannon thing on their chest. You could hold and charge it for a harder shot. I loved it as a kid. Never met anyone else that played it. Q6 GVP NVPHTTPSU2 BEXKY to G1BLQZC CSIS Q6 GVP NFVP. Damn, I haven't played that since the early mid-90s, and that music takes me right back. That it was huge among an older set and inspired some absolutely bonkers online behavior, including death threats and a mob trying to get a soldier court-martialed for how he treated his digital pets. There was an Apple II game called Olympics or something like that where you had to bang on the two arrow keys to make your runner go and then hit the space bar to make him jump. There were other events too. The last one was the best, where you got to race around the track using the W's and C keys or something like that. If you made the runner, which was just a line and a dot, he would start to blink. Anyone. Cannon fodder. I mean, and not the only one. Someone has probably played it, just not sure they loved it as much as I did when I first saw it. It was my mission to keep Jules and Jupe alive as long as possible, despite having 100 more recruits ready to go. I was also bitterly disappointed I couldn't patch them up when they were laying wounded on the ground, but I guess that was a bit much for the times. Pit Fighter for the Sega Master System. Absolutely loved it as a little kid. I watched a playthrough a couple years ago, and it looks like absolute dogshit. On the other hand, a new chicken wing restaurant opened near my house one day called Legendary Wings, and I remembered the NES game of the same name. Good times. Also, we need a remake or sequel to Golvalius. Karateka. Apple II, I believe. Very basic karate platformer. Other would be Tenchu for PlayStation. Came out when Ninja came out, and Ninja had all the advertising. Tenchu was an innovative 3-platformer with a grappling hook and pose and rice balls among other things. Needed stealth and strategy to get through levels. Managed a GameStop at the time and sold the crap out of that game. The Mystical Ninja series. I remember playing Legend of the Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, and Goemon's Great Adventure. when I was growing up, and all three of them were awesome games. I'd love to see a remastered collection featuring those games and possibly localized versions of the Japanese SNES games that were never released in the West. Not sure the name. Probably Sex Tetris or maybe 30 Tetris. It was an all-PC game that had naked people in different positions that fell, and you had to line a guy and girl together either face to genitals or genitals to genitals. I can't remember, and I'm pretty sure same sex would not work. Anyway, you eliminated them in pairs, not entire lines like in Tetris. There's a really great racing game for some early-gen consoles called Mad Dash Over the Road Racing. It's like a kart game but on foot, and all the characters have different abilities. It's a ton of fun. My friend got it for me when we were kids as a bargain bin birthday party gift, and we played it all night. One of the best racing games I've ever played. Phantom Fighter for the NES. Teen game where you did karate at weird hopping zombie things. We were kids and didn't know that they were actually Chinese vampires, and else it just get fucking chirped by the game so hard for dying. Not sure if this counts, because it's a PC game. That normality, my stepdad got that game for me and my siblings in the early 2000s, and I was obsessed with it. I recently watched the playthrough on YouTube and witnessed a piece of my childhood also. Apparently I did not get nearly as far through the game as I thought I did. Crush, Crumble and Chomp, an old Apple IC game. Structured kinda like Rampage, but top-down, not side-side. And instead of trashing a generic building, you were trying to level Tokyo or San Francisco. I loved it when I was 7 or 8. Crush, Crumble and Chomp. Org Wikifar Crush, Crumble and Chomp.jpg. It was a computer game. In the mid to late 80s I played a 3D version of Tetris. You looked down into a pit and dropped in the 3D shapes. Played it a lot and loved it, but once the computer was gone I could never find the game again. If anyone knows of a current version, I'd love to have a go again. I was pretty good at it. Cloud Master. It was a game I played as a kid in the late 80s, early 90s on my Sega Master System. Ported version for my Switch called Monkey King Master of the Clouds. And apparently I was way fucking better at video games when I was 6 than I am now, because I can't even get past the first level. Empire's Dawn of the Modern World. Great RTS game with 5 eras: medieval, gunpowder, imperial, WWI and WWI. It was kind of like a mix between AO and the Empire Earth. I spent so many hours playing it as a kid, but no one remembers it. They finally added it to GOG a couple years back, and I still play it every so often. Cho and Mac for the SNES was a side-scroller where you played as a caveman fighting your way across levels via flinging projectiles, defeating dinosaurs and eventually the devil, all with the end goal of saving the cave girls. As a kid it was a lot of fun. It was ported across a number of systems also. There was something I played on the Tandy 1000 where you were in a maze and there were a bunch of worms that looked like circles stuck together with smiley faces. I don't remember the objective to the game, but there was a creator mode and you could make your own mazes and place your own enemies. I bought a DOS game called Bowl when I was like 8 or 9 in the late 80s, just because the box art was so fucking crazy. The game kinda sucked. But my real answer is another game I played a lot that I never see anyone mention ever is Quarantine. Loved that game. Way ahead of its time. Maze craze on the Atari. You had to navigate through a maze either alone or racing player 2, and some settings had bad guys that would insta-kill you. Some settings required you to kill the baddies before you could leave the maze. A shame there was never a remake of this game. Tekken LMAO. I'm the only person who plays the game at a pretty above casual level and have a lot of knowledge about the game. Meanwhile my dad and my friends just button mash and I'm over here doing optimals. Wow. Video game, where players control a character that navigates across a grid laid over a 3D girl's plaid skirt, and every section you enclose removes that part of the skirt, revealing what's underneath. Some unknown kick-style 3D game from Japan. Legend of Grandia by Westwood Games. There were 3 of them. but Hand of Fate was the best. It was a point-and-click game about a witch who had her shit stolen by a giant hand. She has to spend the rest of the game trying to stop the giant hand from ruining the world. Evil West, released in 2022, I believe it was. Fairly new but really good. I would suggest it if you happen to like Red Dead Redemption 2 or God of War with more gore and more powers and such. The story is also decent. Could be better, but the gameplay overall is 8/10. Rising Storm to Vietnam. I've seen some videos on it, but the only people I know who know about it are people I've told about the game. I don't know anyone who learned about the game on their own without me telling them about it. One of my favorite games of all time. Bionic Commando, the original NES version, and the Xbox 360 PS3 one. Not rare, but most of friends or people I've asked have no idea. Any game with a grappling hook has me sold on it, and I think I can trace that to the NES version and Tenchu Stealth Assassin. G-Police. I got it for free with my Gateway computer, and it was bundled to show off the power of the Riva 1-8 GPU by a little-known company named NVIDIA. Coming from a 486 and a lot of time playing Quake in software rendering, it was a revelation. Herzog Zwei on Sega Genesis. It beat out Dune from Westwood Studios as the first real-time strategy yet. It's so little known it never gets credited for that accomplishment. I have fond memories of playing split-screen head-to-head versus my uncle. Nightmare 3D on DOS and Windows 95. It's a horror-themed Wolfenstein clone, and a pretty fun one. I wasted so many childhood hours on the game. Best yet, you can still buy the game, although you'd better either virtualize or have a 32-bit OS.